All right, so not only will this guide tone system that we've been looking at, not only does that work very well with the straight ahead swing jazz style, but it will also work in other styles of music. One style that's very popular among all jazz musicians is, of course, the music of Brazil, most famously samba, choro, and bossa nova. Bossa nova patterns, we can incorporate this guide tone system to playing chord changes in the song in a different rhythmic style. So you'll be using a slightly different technique to capture this feel of bossa nova, but you're using the exact same architecture harmonically. So if we look at the handout here, we've got a basic bossa nova pattern, but let's just look at the chord symbol first. We have an F minor 9. So again, thinking of the guide tone approach, we can reduce that to an F minor 7 chord with one extension on our top floor, which would be the 9th. So if we were to voice that, let's just say we start with a root 5, F minor 9. So we'd start with a F minor 7 guide tone fingering. And I will actually finger it in this way, 2, 1, 3, because I'm going to need my pinky to play the 9th, which in this case is going to be on the B string. So there's our F minor 9 chord. So you can see and also hear that the guide tone approach really works well in styles other than straight ahead swing. So when we're working with a bossa nova pattern, it's going to be completely different in terms of the feel, as opposed to feeling, on beats 2 and 4 as we would in a swing setting. Bossa nova is really derived from samba rhythms, and the bass is dictated by this drum called the surdo drum. This is giant. This is essentially a street drum. These are street drum orchestras, and the bass is always on the 1 and 3 of the bar. The syncopation and that beautiful, lilting flavor of bossa nova comes in with the comping patterns that you're going to use with your fingers outlining the chords. So there's a lot of syncopation, but that syncopation is held in place or offset by the real stable 1 and 3 bass, which approximates the sound of the surdo drum, and then the upper part kind of approximates the sound of a pandero drum and other drums in a street group. So if we look at example 1, we're going to play these syncopated rhythms, the chord structure, with our index, middle, and ring fingers in the same exact ways that we did with our walking bass and comping. The rhythms are slightly different. So what you may want to do is just sing and clap the rhythms first. You could even just get the bass going, and then sing the rhythm to yourself on top of that. Da 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 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then you put them all together and you'll be separating these two parts just like you did with a walking bass and chords. It'll sound something like this: 3, 4. Now in our second example, let's take a look at a slightly different variation on that pattern. This one involves using an F major 9 chord, and we're going to still use that same guide tone approach of the first story of the duplex, if you will, is an F major 7. And then the second story of the duplex is going to be our extension, 9th, which is a G. Put those together and we have an F major 9. As with the previous example, we're going to keep the bass on the 1 and 3 as always, and there's just a variation in the rhythm here. So actually what you may want to do before moving the bass line is just keep an F constantly before switching to the 5th. So if we play the variation slowly, it's 3 and 4 and. If we were to break that down, we basically have two types of movements: the thumb and the claw together, and the claw by itself. So we have together, claw, claw, thumb, claw, claw. And for the rest of the pattern, everything is independent until they meet back up on beat 3 of the second measure. Okay, so if we slow this down and move the bass line between the F and the C, the 1 and 5, it sounds like this: 3, 4. Finally, if we were to incorporate some of these bossa nova rhythms in the context of a 2-5-1 progression, we would have this next example. One thing to note when you're looking at this, anticipation is a very common element that you see in this style of playing. So if you're moving from one chord to the next, as you are in this example, usually the next chord is anticipated. So if you take a look in the first measure there, on the very last chord there, the and of beat 4, that's actually the B flat 7 chord that's anticipated at the end of the measure that features the F minor 7 in there. That's a very common device that you want to use. So if you're switching chords, most likely you're going to anticipate the upcoming chord and to keep it flowing and moving forward. So here's that next 2-5-1 example. 3, 4.